If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the...
SevereMMA. SevereMMA.
SevereMMA.
SevereMMA.
SevereMMA.
SevereMMA.
The SevereMMA podcast is finally here.
Welcome to the SevereMMA podcast. Here's your host, Shauna Bannon.
Welcome everybody. It's episode 420, man, of the SevereMMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka Shawnee Podcast, the pod god, the most cocky man in MMA, Georgie Sean Sheehan, as we take another look at the world of mixed martial arts. You know, we always do it every week here, and we're going to do it again. I'm joined by the Pep Guardiola of Irish MMA Media, Graeme McDonald, as we delve into MMA, as we always do. But before we get into all that mad MMA, Smooth Sack Summer is here, and if you haven't already heard, why haven't you heard? Where you're playing in the summer sun, you need to be scaped from pubes to bum. That's right. This is the summer they keep your balls cool while still looking hot with Manscaped. The leaders in below the waist grooming are making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. So dive head first into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with our code SevereMMA. And it's do you know what? I had a good shave myself. Maybe down low. I know that needs to come as well. But you know, when it's warm and roasting outside, you need it. You need to clean yourself up. And do you know what is best for that? The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. It has absolutely everything. Starting off with the Lawnmower 4.0. Lads, this is brilliant. It has that advanced skin safe technology. 7,000 RPM motor, on and off multifunction switch, travel lock, 4,000K LED light, the whole shebang, sure. Did I mention it's waterproof? Take it to the beach, the lake, the shower. Absolutely perfect for all of that. The liquid formulations as well. I actually just got new ones there over the last couple of weeks. I love them. They get you fresh for the barbecue. The Crop Preserver, absolutely brilliant. The Crop Reviver, fantastic as well. Then we have the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag, which were the two gifts with that Performance Package 4.0. What more do you need? But they also, do you know what? I was using these today, the Shears 2.0, because everyone, you know, you're wearing flip-flops, you're going around like that. That's exactly what you need. But they have nail cutters, tweezers, and grooming scissors as well. And I'll tell you this for free, even though I'm getting paid. They are really, 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 really good. Honest to God, if you buy nothing else, buy that. The Shears 2.0, that package is exceptional. So get that over at manscaped.com. And you can have 20% off plus free shipping on that. That's brilliant. The free shipping, I'd rather free shipping 20% off nearly. I hate paying for shipping. So if you can get the free shipping at manscaped.com with the promo code SevereMMA. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our awesome friends, absolutely awesome, over at Caldera Lab. And you know what you need with a smooth sack? You need a smooth face as well. It's right around the corner is the summer, not the sack. The sun shines brighter. Your skin deserves the utmost attention. Unfortunately, I didn't say unfortunately, I said fortunately, our sponsors, Caldera Lab, are the leader in men's skincare, ensuring your skin is well prepared for the season ahead. Ever since I incorporated Caldera Lab into my routine, well, honestly, I started with Caldera Lab. Taking care of my skin has been even simpler with their clinically proven products. Wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging. It's visibly reduced. Visibly reduced. All of those things. You know, boosted confidence, impeccable first impression this summer. What more do you want? And you can get 20% off their products, their finest products, at calderalab.com with the promo code SevereMMA, CALDERALAB. Caldera Lab's if you don't know by now, they create high-performance men's skincare products by combining pharmaceutical-grade science along with nature's purest and most potent ingredients. The regimen leads their product line, a twice-a-day routine to transform your skin, but you'll also see the clean slate, the base layer, and the good. The clean slate helps you start your day. It's a balancing cleanser. The base layer is a nutrient-dense, fortifying moisturizer that hydrates your skin, and the good is the go-to before night. Clinically proven multifunctional serum that helps your skin look tighter and smoother. I don't know why I put on an American accent, but there you go. So yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. Check them out. We want you to take your skincare to the next level with Caldera Lab. And you got to do that. The Icon as well for around your eyes, absolutely brilliant. It's a rejuvenating eye serum, takes away fine lines, or helps anyway, fine lines, dark circles and puffiness, committed to transparency, sustainability and excellence. Caldera Lab is on a mission to better men's skincare around the globe, priding itself on clean ingredients and doing right by their customers, just like here, us at SevereMMA. That was backwards, I sound like Yoda. Caldera Lab is a certified B Corporation as well as member of the 1%. I've never watched Star Wars, actually. I don't want to go act like I know who Yoda is and all that, but I did watch The Mandalorian though. Anyway, through upcoming uncompromising craftsmanship, exceptional ingredients and rigorous transparency, Caldera Lab is here to upgrade your skin and confidence. So get 20% off with our code SevereMMA at calderalab.com. That's 20% off at calderalab.com by using the code SevereMMA. Elevate your skincare game this summer with Caldera Lab. Right, Graeme, let's get straight into UFC 289, I suppose. And I was thinking, as the co-main event ended, as we're going into the main event, we might have to update the awards list here. This might be an event of the year caliber event. I really enjoyed it. Do you know what? I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. I got the projector out here in the man cave / office, as it has become over the last while. For the first time in about, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe 6 months. But I was like, oh, this is great. It was like watching a film or something. I enjoyed it. But it was a good card. It was a good card, to be fair. And then the main event happened, and it was... Were
you not shitting all over the card there last week?
Yeah.
I'm only joking.
No, well, I did, but it delivered. It did, to be fair. No, like it wasn't a great card. I obviously the top two fights were ones I was looking forward to, but one of them delivered, and the other one certainly did not. I thought it was a horrendous main event, and for one reason more than any, I suppose. And
Aldana's tepid performance, God
almighty, was awful. I thought,
timid,
usually
scared. Like I kind of mentioned it, like at the end of the analysis, being like, this is a big, like, Amanda Nunes is a big test, big main event, title shot. Maybe the event will get to her, the moment will get to her. And it looked, even before she got into the octagon, that she didn't really want to be there, in my opinion.
To be honest, I didn't notice that. When John Anik said it, I was like, fair play to him for saying that. And do you know what? I'll give the commentary a lot of credit. I thought it was actually very good at the weekend. They called most of the fights pretty right. And I think this one especially, it takes a bit of gusto to actually shit all over the fight a little bit. Because when it's a fight as bad as that, and to be fair to Nunes, she didn't fight badly or anything like that, but when one fighter just does not show up, when they fight so badly, so tepidly, give up their opportunity, it's pretty hard to say that, because you don't like saying anything bad about these fighters. They put a lot into it for very, very little. But at the end of the day as well, your job is to tell the truth. Your job is to call it as it is, whether it's them in the commentary or us here. And more, look, it's easier for us to do it here because everyone in the world is listening to them. There's only a few people listening to us who choose to come in and listen to us. But at that aside, anyway, look, it was hard not to see the truth of that. The way Aldana fought, it was ridiculous. Like, I think someone said it midway through the fight. It's like, and I think it was Paul Feller. You don't want to, in this fight, be sitting there afterwards and thinking, I never fought. I never started. I never got going. And she really didn't. She landed one strike in the first round and there was nothing after that.
That strike in the first round, though, you thought, okay, now, it's obviously not been going your way. Let's go kind of balls to the wall and go out in our shield or get an upset of the year KO or something. You can't just slip back into the pattern of getting picked apart, at ease, basically, like in a sparring match, and just offering nothing. And yeah, like as they said on the commentary, it's a long way back to a title shot. Like maybe it's a little less long now if Amanda Nunes' retirement holds up, but yeah, I have to agree with the commentators there. You're going to look back on that chance in a year's time and wonder what the hell you were thinking and what you were doing, and be very, it'll be Dana White. He probably not happy with that. He'd probably have to be backed into a corner to give you another title shot after that, to be honest. I
haven't heard these comments yet because we're recording this very, very early, but I doubt we'll get into the retirement stuff in a minute, but maybe he didn't say much about it because of the retirement, but I doubt, as you kind of alluded to there, that he was too happy with it. Like my thinking in it was, right, if you're being very positive towards Irina, maybe 2-3 rounds in, maybe you're thinking, right, okay, Amanda Nunes, we've seen in the past, she's had issues with not necessarily cardio, but you weather the storm, you come and you go hard at her, and then she kind of wilts a little bit. It's happened, 2 or 3 times in her career. But there was a sequence, I think it was towards the end of the 3rd round, where there was a bit of grappling and they both stood up. And I think Cormier said, oh, look, Aldana looks really tired. And she did. And like, she was way more tired than Amanda Nunes. So like, even if her plan was to tire out Nunes, don't do anything for the first 2, 3, 4 rounds and then come on late, it worked the opposite way, because it was a sparring session for Nunes. It was literally just target practice. Like, any of these fighters can do exactly what Nunes did there for 10 rounds. Absolutely no problem. They have to be pushed to the pin of their collar for that, if there is a perceived cardio issue, to actually come out. And it's less a cardio issue, I think, with Nunes. Maybe I explained it wrong. It's like I always use the phrase avalanche. Like, if it goes against her, it'll kind of keep going against her. But Aldana did none of that. She didn't make it go against her. Apart from that, as I said again, that one punch, and I think it was maybe even a little bit overrated in the first round. There was just nothing. There was just nothing. And I'll run quickly through the fight, I suppose. There isn't much to my notes, but like, in case anyone didn't see it. So the first round, we'll say it again, Nunes got a couple of easy takedowns, and she actually kind of made a fool of her a little bit, because she took her down and then didn't even go down. Just took her down and then stood up and like, okay, come on, we'll fight again on the feet. It was like big sister in her, like she was teething.
It's kind of like I kind of had the feeling of kind of like, okay, that's there if I need it. I can easily just take her down. Okay, it's good to know. And also doing, what we always talk about, throw in a takedown so you make them think about it, and that's what she did as well. And like, these high hands that Aldana had from the very start. She literally, if you didn't see the fight, she literally had, like, and I mean nearly literally, her hands super glued onto her temples. It was so odd, like, it was, and I understand that, okay, you want to be defensive, but there's no offense coming whatsoever. And then Nunes was able to literally just go down, pick up her leg and take her down whenever she wanted. So that was the first round, basically. The second round, Aldana did nothing, like, just nothing. Nunes just picking her off, more combos, and got a late takedown again. The third round, Aldana started walking forward in the third round, but landed 0. Nunes got a takedown midway through, hit her very hard up until late, won that round. Again, the fourth round, Aldana did land a bit more in the fourth round, but one good right hand from she landed a good right hand, and then Nunes landed an elbow at the same time. The commentary got a bit confused on it, and to be fair, they were right to be confused, because they both did land at the same time. But that was the other shot that Aldana landed. But then after that, it was all Nunes, and the latter part of the fourth round was probably the best part of the fight for her. She got another takedown, opened up with strikes, and I think they showed a stat at one stage she landed 45 strikes in that round alone, which was, the stats, the strikes don't tell you much, but it shows you in that she's thrown a lot of strikes. The fifth round, just the takedown on top, saw it out and won pretty handily. On Nunes' performance, I think it's a tough one, and especially now she retired afterwards. We'll get to, and we'll talk about it in a second. But as someone who came in and picked Aldana on the way in, and picked it based, very little off of actual Aldana itself, which I'm kind of glad. But I picked it off of Nunes possibly being finished. She didn't show any signs of that
because she wasn't given reason to show any signs, you know. It was like a testimonial or something in this. So it's hard to know. Do you ever see like Paul Scholes or Steven Gerrard in those testimonials, and they're like hitting balls 40 yards, like, these lads could still do it, you know, because no one's getting near them, and no, you know.
And if they haven't scored yet, some lad will put in like a terrible tackle in the box to give away a penalty, so they can get to go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this was kind of like. It was literally, you know, she was playing in Soccer Aid or something. Just people kind of looking at her fighting. It was weird and so she did look good. Like it's hard to know if she could have been pushed to the pin of her collar, if she would have wilted again. But there was literally no moment of sign of that from Nunes herself, to be fair, but from her opponent pushing her to that. So it was impossible to know. But we have to give her credit for what she did. She made it hard for Aldana to do anything, because she was hitting her hard and she was keeping her the whole way. If she kind of just froze in front of Aldana, and that does happen a lot, to be fair. Like even we talk about in soccer sometimes, like if there's someone just putting up this defensive plot in front of you, it's very hard to break that down sometimes. But Nunes did really well. She was picking off the areas she needed to pick off. As you know, we'll say it again, those takedowns, even though they didn't score, she didn't do much with them. Everyone still knew they were there, Aldana included, and they really helped her throughout the fight. They helped her to land those teeps. They helped her to get on top and win big portions of big rounds when she landed lots of shots. So it's very difficult to say anything bad about Nunes' performance, to be honest. She was dominant apart from 2 punches in the whole fight, one in the first, I said one in the fourth, but she landed one just as good as the one in the fourth at the same time, and it was a pretty easy performance. What did you think of her? We've spoken about her last 2 performances, that obviously the second last one was horrendous. The last one I didn't think was great, but she did enough to get the win. Hard to analyse last night in terms of high level aptitude, but she did look good, Graeme.
Yeah, she did. She did, she picked her apart. She did everything she needed. She played it safe. She got her win bonus. She retired on a win with the belts in the cage. She seemed to have it planned out. You know, we kind of talked about whether she was still as hungry, whether her head was in it as much as before, and maybe the performance didn't show us that, but maybe the kind of immediate retirement afterwards kind of showed us that she's not really as obsessed with this game, and doesn't have the drive when you've already achieved all these things. As she said, she's already kind of come from a small town and made the American dream, and fulfilled all her dreams, and she wants to go back and spend time with her family that she's missed, and her wife and kid and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe that was more of an indicator of where her head was at in the performance, because there was so little coming back the other way. Like, bar that one punch in the first round, she got hit a couple other times, but there was no real danger at any time, and she seemed happy to just take the win bonus, take the win, and sail off into retirement. Whether she'll stay retired or not is another thing, but I might actually believe this one.
Yeah, me too, weirdly. For us, the belief for retirement.
When you come out with actual plans, and you have it's not just a kind of spur of the moment thing, or it's even though she's not old for a champion, it's not like, oh, you need to retire or anything, but it does seem like the kind of fire is gone, even though, obviously she just dominated at the very top level. So yeah, I think we might never see Amanda Nunes, or might not see her for a long while anyway.
Yeah, it did seem real to me. There's kind of 2 parts of it with Amanda Nunes, I think. Well, maybe multiple parts, but she has always seemed to be someone who, didn't live beyond her means. Like if Sean O'Malley got into her situation, I don't think he'd be returned. He'd kind of need to continue to fight, probably. But or maybe even Conor McGregor or whoever it might be, But it always felt like she was kind of planning for this day, and that was smart. And maybe because her partner is a fighter who isn't as successful, maybe she was like, well, do you know what, we need to be frugal about this, because fighters have to be that way. And maybe that was a very good thing for her. But also, I think, she's fallen out with her team over the last while. She started her own kind of gym, and I don't know that it ever feel like she was fully in it from that point on. Now, maybe I have that wrong, but it didn't seem anymore like she had the love for it. And she always seemed like someone who was very passionate and had the love for MMA, and you know, it was her whole life, and it changed her life, as you mentioned, Graeme, and everything like that. And I felt like that did go a little bit towards the end. And the other side of it then is, as someone who's lived very frugally, she has had a litany of main events and championship fights. Like, I think John Anik said it was 12 in a row or something like that, which, you know, we talk about the UFC pay all the time is pretty bad, and it should be more, and she definitely should have gotten more. But she has got main event pay for that amount of fights. And if she was on pay-per-view points as well, sometimes we forget that, like, a couple of Amanda Nunes' fights were on big cards. Like, she headlined UFC 200, which did a lot. She was on UFC 196, McGregor versus Diaz, which did an awful lot. She was on UFC 239, a John Jones card. Actually, UFC 232 as well, another John Jones card. She was on Usman versus Covington as well, the one that did very, very well. So she has been on some if she's pay-per-view points, now they don't all have it, but let's assume she does. That's a lot of money she has pulled in there out of that, plus all the main event money itself. You know, and Amanda Nunes is probably a lot richer than a lot of people think. And now, look, we always downplay fighter pay, and as we should, and she should be a lot more rich than she actually is. But yeah, no, I'd say Amanda Nunes is not wanting for a penny. And you know what? I'm absolutely delighted for herself. And as you mentioned, Graeme, her family, she's one kid. I think they have another kid on the way as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. And this is what you want out of MMA. Like, this is exactly what you want. You know, you start off your career, you come into the UFC, you lose in Invicta, you have a tough time of it, you lose to Katzengano on what your third UFC fight. And then you go on this unbelievable run, and there's no doubt about it. She is the greatest female fighter of all time. Not a doubt in the world. There's no one even close. Like, Chris Cyborg is a great fighter. Ronda Rousey, we you know, a lot of people maybe look at her negatively and very, very unfairly. She's still an absolute all-time great. But Amanda Nunes knocked out Chris Cyborg and Ronda Rousey in a combined 99 seconds. Combined. Absolutely insane. She just destroyed him. She beat Holly Holm, finished her. Like, I did it. I had a tweet from a few years ago. She's won championship fights via knockout submission and technical 5-round decision. She's lost to Juliana Pena, came back and beat her the next time. It's a career that is unmatched in the women's ranks, and it'll take a lot, I'm telling you, to match it, because like even someone like Shevchenko, who was coming hard behind her, you know, she ended up losing too, and maybe she could rescue it and come back and do it as well, but it'll be very hard to overtake what Amanda Nunes has done, and I don't think she will ever be forgotten by MMA fans for how good she was. And you know, there was a couple of displays in there in the middle where she just got through them, and maybe it wasn't her best night of all the time, but then there was just the destructions, like the Rousey ones, especially, but the Chris Cyborg one I mentioned again, that was maybe my favorite fight of all time. I loved that fight because it was the number 1 and number 2 pound for pound fighters in the world going absolutely at it. You know, when the Makachev Volkanovski fight came up there a couple of months ago at this stage, you know, people were like, oh, this is the first time ever, and then like there was a couple of people pointing out, no, it actually John Jones in DC, which I actually don't think it was, but anyway, but they forgot about this. How could you forget about Cyborg versus Nunes? And hopefully people won't forget how great of a fight that was, and that should be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame as a great fight, in my opinion. It was only 51 seconds, but I think it was the greatest 51 seconds we've ever seen in the history. And like when we're talking about maybe this is a good one for a career retrospective, it's Amanda Nunes, because God Almighty, you'll hardly ever get a career as good as this again. It was phenomenal to look back on that fight, but to look back on her whole career, you know, beat Valentina Shevchenko twice as well. Let's not forget the other person going for probably the greatest of all time in the UFC with her. So absolutely brilliant.
Two-way champion in the UFC. She's done it all, really. You know, there's no, she should fight her again. Like, obviously, if she was going to fight on, there would be matches for her, but there's nothing left unfinished. You know, she got the win back against Juliana Pena. She went out on top here. So yeah, this is like the fairy tale ending, if it is the ending. And you know, too often we see, you know, guys like BJ Penn or loads of guys just fight on too long, and it shouldn't taint her legacy, and it doesn't in my mind, but in a lot of people's mind it does. And hopefully Amanda Nunes can be content in her life outside MMA and not get the itch to come back in a few years when she's past her best and people start making names off her and things like that. We've seen it a lot in MMA and boxing and things like that. So if she can stay retired, it'll be the perfect ending to a near perfect career and a record breaking career. That's, as you said, it's going to be hard to break her records, and it's going to take some doing. And hopefully for the future of the sport, we have people like Amanda Nunes again, but we may not. This is a really high level, well-rounded mixed martial artist with power on the feet, submissions, ability to go five, and she has it all. Like you said it there. She has it all, and if the motivation is not there, and you've kind of completed the game, then walk away and, as she said, and be free to enjoy the rest of her life.
100%. And
like we don't think about this, but there is a lot of pressure being a champion for so long and fighting there's a lot of pressure on you. A lot of people are rooting for you. You don't want to let people down, all that stuff. So. We've seen it with George St. Pierre and Anderson when they lost the belts. They said it was a relief to lose the belt. Yeah. So I'm sure she's feeling a mix of emotions now, but hopefully she can be content with life outside of fighting. Yeah,
it did seem a relief for her as well last night. She was very demanding and like, cut off these gloves, like, get them off. She's like, I want to get out of here, and that's it. And it was. As you said, it's very tough, and we always struggle with that part of it, I think, because we talk to fighters, interview fighters all the time, and you see a bit of it, but then sometimes you interview a lad even, and after the interview he tells you the truth, kind of a thing, and it's like, oh jeez, well, this was hard, and like, they're not giving out or anything, it's just the truth about it, and it's very hard to see that because people don't want to admit it to their opponents and things as well. But yeah, it's very, very tough, and even for someone like Nunes, who's earned a lot of money and who's been at the top of the game for a long while, I'm sure she's had a lot of those struggles as well as the pressure struggles and all of that. So hopefully she can enjoy her life a bit and enjoy her family and enjoy the fruits of her labours for the next few years. All right, we'll move on. Let's talk about the co-main event, and I called this one right, Graeme. Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush. I 20 quid and 11-2, not to add 130 quid out the door. Fucking brilliant. Well, the first bet I put on in about 6 months, I won a 9 closing down my account. That's the only bet I do. But have you seen my Sherdog Flyers? I've had 5 weeks in a row where the Flyers have hit. Like, I think it was plus 575 last night, plus 300. I think there was a couple of plus 600 bets in there as well on an absolutely unbelievable run. So tune into that show if you're not watching it. But this fight, look, it went almost exactly as I thought. Oliveira came out throwing shots, throwing head kicks. Dariush did a good job of actually pushing him against the cage. I don't know if it was a take. So Oliveira tried to take him down, failed on it. Then Dariush was kind of taking him down, but Oliveira didn't put up too much of a fight. He kind of half pulled guard a little bit, but Dariush was, it was like a pull guard.
I think he just kind of settled for the being taken down.
He did, yeah. It was a weird sort of position, and they were both happy enough with it. And Dariush was doing okay on top, but actually, did you see these significant strikes that they showed?
Zero after he landed like a really nice shot.
Loads of them.
There was a couple of good shots, but there was one really nice one that somehow
if anyone ever tells you again, oh, these are the stats and this is why someone run around, just look at that stat. There was about 3 or 4 elbows from the back. One of them, he like nearly knocked him out with it. He landed a really hard
we saw
elbow.
Last week in KSW that you can, if you land the right shot, you can do serious damage from there. So
some of the punches weren't great, and you shouldn't be punching. I'm not saying it's the best technique or anything like that, but he did land with them, and they were significant strikes. It's like, okay, so is that the rules? I knew I was before. If you threw a jab and whatever it might be, a leg kick, it wasn't a significant strike. But if you throw any strike from your back, it's not significant now. Is that the case? Because that has to be the case, because you're not going to land many better strikes from your back than Charles Oliveira did in that. But because I thought he was winning from that position. He was landing the better shots. Dariush landed some good shots as well. But anyway, they got back onto the feet, and I'll use the phrase again, avalanche. He just avalanched him. He literally just put on the pressure, landed a lot of shots. I didn't see one good big shot he landed, to be honest. He just came with the pressure.
But the head kick kind of knocked Dariush's own kind of forearm into his head.
Was that just before the knockdown, or was that the earlier one?
That was kind of 1 second before he kind of got stuck against the cage and went down. He threw a head kick and he actually blocked it, but Beneil, but the forearm just kind of hit himself in the side of the head.
I need to watch that again. I missed that, but I think the biggest shots after that sequence were on the ground, like when he kind of I don't know, he didn't really knock him down, but he kind of just fell, and then he landed a hammer fist, and he landed a second one, and you're looking at Herzog, and I think Herzog was in a similar mind to me, and that is like, hold on, he actually hasn't landed a lot here, let's give him another minute. But then Dariush just wasn't defending. He was kind of doing that hold your hands up and you're getting punched defense, and it was literally just the pressure. Like, this is the sort of display you need to do against Amanda Nunes to beat her, like, not the exact opposite. But anyway, Oliveira landed more ground and pound, and eventually Jason Herzog stepped in, who had an unbelievably good night in the referee's uniform. And
he was on the accidental headbutt, was he?
He was. We'll talk about that in a minute. But a brilliant display from Charles Oliveira. Again, was it the right matchmaking? Probably not. You're after taking Dariush out of such a long win streak, and now you're after having him lose to a guy who just got destroyed by the champion. Now, we watch our rematch again? Sure, absolutely, but it feels a little bit, and I don't know if you agree with this, Graeme, or not, but it feels a little bit like horses for courses. Like, I think Dariush is a worse matchup for Makhachev than a lot of people, maybe even including Oliveira. But Oliveira is a horrendous matchup for Dariush. So you're taking away a guy on a streak who might actually make a better fight for the champion to replace him with a guy, I'll say it again, who already lost to the champion, who's going to be a very tough matchup against him. It was a good fight, it was a fun fight, and I'm sure the Canadian fans are probably giving out about me trying to have this fight not happen, but it just all seemed... It's one of those ones, right? It's one of those ones where you love it, but you hate it at the same time. Like the Aaron Lallin Max Holloway fight. It's a very good fight, and I'm delighted to have them fight. But then as well, like, well, Aaron Lallin deserves a title shot. Why is this fight even happening? But yeah, as this fight happened last night, I suppose that went out of your head, and you just enjoyed the fight. But what did you think of it? Like, should we be as critical on Beneil Dariush as we are on Irene Aldana, Graeme? Because
he didn't perform at all, and as you said, there wasn't anything super clean at the end. He just kind of got overwhelmed by, as you said, the avalanche of Charles Oliveira, and maybe Oliveira has better power than I'm giving him credit for. And I think they were talking about Gaethje, talking about how he has kind of uncanny power, but I think Dariush didn't really turn up. He had the chance when he got on top to do some real damage, and as you said, it was even if not, Charles landed a better shot from the bottom. So even when he had the kind of the small opportunity to capitalize, he didn't. So I don't know if it was a bad night at the office or the style matchup or both, but I think maybe they made the matchup because Beneil Dariush kind of needs more kind of fanfare behind him for them to want to make that title fight. And if he had beaten Charles Oliveira, it probably would have given him a bit more. And Charles Oliveira has become quite popular, and obviously he's been a former champion, and he's in exciting fights, his finishes, and there's he really goes balls to the wall and things like that. So it's probably the UFC thinking that they prefer Charles Oliveira in a rematch than a fresh matchup of Dariush versus Makhachev. So that was probably the thinking behind that. I
don't know. Do I agree with that thinking necessarily, but like, geez, that's...
You see many people casual getting too excited for Beneil Dariush. If he just had gone straight into a title shot without fighting Oliveira, if he had beaten Oliveira, there might have been a bit more steam behind it, but
maybe, but they're going to have this fight in like Fight Island. They're going to earn a lot of money out of it anyway. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not cynical enough in my own. And that's not a thing that's been said very often.
This is a meritocracy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for Benny as well, and I don't know, it was weird. The closer this fight got, the more I knew he was going to lose, kind of thing. I could not believe he was 11-2.
Me and you were talking about the odds. We were like, what? So are we missing something here? What's going on?
It was absolutely crazy. And it's so much so that I actually said it to a few people. I said it to a lot of people. It was on my betting show, but I said it to people in private. I was like, lads, this is not right. Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like the odds of, do you know, those fights from years ago when people like didn't know who Neil Seary was, or like even, you know, further back than that. I remember Joe Rogan used to always talk about people not knowing who Anderson Silva was, and like Chris Lieben was a favourite to beat him or something. It reminded me of those odds, which you don't really see anymore. It's like, what are people watching here? Like, you have one guy whose chin was never the greatest against a guy who just puts it on people early and lands these big shots. It's like, this is almost certainly going to go this way. Now, it might definitely go that way, but it did. And yeah, the odds are definitely
maybe, you know, Charles Oliveira's striking is a bit underrated. Maybe historically he's known as, you know, a bit of just one-dimensional grappler, but that's been years. So I don't know how they came to those very close odds, but, you know, happy days.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, look, it's interesting now, right? Because if you're Poirier and Gaethje, you're a fresh matchup there for Makhachev, so that fight's going to be a main event. You know, could the winner of that get the title shot over Oliveira? And like, if Dariush had won this, you'd be saying like he'd be absolutely robbed blind if the winner of that got the title shot over him. Would Oliveira be robbed blind now, even though he's had good results against him? I don't know. I could see it happening, to be honest. I could see it happening. Let's say Poirier seems to be a bit of a star for them. Like, if Poirier did get the win, like, especially as well, if Poirier did get the win, right, and they put him in against Makhachev, like, we have to, if we're being a little bit cynical here, you know, Conor McGregor's on his way back, and Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier have unfinished business. If you could Poirier into a title shot, maybe get him the title, not as unlikely as that might be. You know, you could bring McGregor back in there into that mix as well. I don't know if that'll play into it or not, but look, we shall see how it plays out in the next while.
Yeah, you know, but like, in fairness for the side of Charles Oliveira, his only loss was the Makhachev fight since 2017 against Paul Felder. So he's been on, you know, quite the streak, and he was a champion. So from his side of things, and from you know, going out there and destroying Dariush like he did, I'd say he'd be expecting a title shot and be very disappointed if he doesn't get it. Yeah,
and that's, you know, that's fair enough as well. I do like lads having to work their way back a little bit, especially when they got beaten by the champion like he did. But, you know, he beat the number one contender. He beat the next best guy in the division at the moment. So hard to.
And before that, he beat Poirier, he beat Gaethje, he beat Chandler, Ferguson. You know, it's pretty good recent record. It is good when you beat the other two guys vying for it, really, isn't it? You have to be fair now. So, right, we'll move on. Honestly, the card was very good from Oliveira down. It might even still be a contender for card of the year, although the main event was very bad. But Mike Malott looked good. It was funny, as they were fighting, I was thinking like, oh, him versus Ian Gary is a fight that'll probably happen down the line. And I think like in the questions, maybe 3 people said it to me. Mike Malott versus Ian Gary. It was funny. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they're kind of similarly well built and similarly kind of athletic looking and move well, but anyway, I was very impressed with him. He beat Adam Fugit, ended up choking him. You know, it was the all kind of knockdown and submission, so he looked good throughout that. Dan Ige just completely outclassed Nate Landwehr, and this is another one called pretty straightforward. I actually, like, I did the bench show. I gave Ige to win by decision on it, and about 2 minutes in I was like, oh god, I don't know, is that the best bet in the world? I thought he was going to finish him, because he, like, we see levels sometimes in the UFC, and the matchmakers are generally quite good at putting 2 people of the same level together, but this was not 1 level or 2 levels of a difference. This was a big difference. Like, Ige, I think Ige's a little bit underrated as a fighter, and I think Landwehr is massively overrated as a fighter, if I'm being honest, and it really showed. Ige just like tore him apart. Also, a very good fight. I know I'm not allowed to talk about judging anymore, Graeme, but a very good fight for showing the difference between impact and damage, because Ige's face, you know, it was cut open, and it was you know, in 3 or 4 different places, and Landwehr really didn't have any cuts or any damage, but the impact of Ige's strikes knocking him down and hurting him and all that were way more than Landwehr's, and he lost I think he lost all 3 rounds, didn't he, and lost the unanimous decision anyway. So that's a good judging lesson there, although I'm not allowed to give him any more apparently. Marc-Andre Barriault in another close fight, again good judging I thought here. The first round especially was very, very close. Anders did land a couple of good shots, but Barriault was kind of winning before that. It was a
Not okay. I was saying a good fight there. Actually, take that back. It wasn't a great fight. It was a good contest, maybe, if you want to put it that way. The ability in it, not amazing.
Willing to trade a lot, and it looked like for a long time that somebody was going to get knocked out, but both guys got hit hard. But all round, Anders he's a bit one dimensional, and maybe you could give him the second round, but I don't think that he won that fight. Although the rounds weren't super definitive or anything, but I think the third round and the first round were pretty clear. Yeah,
indeed. Then we had the head clash that we talked about earlier on. Imavov versus Curtis. Very unfortunate, because I thought Imavov looked really good in this. He was, light years as well. Another one where level showed, I think, against above Chris Curtis. He was just winning in all areas. And then there was a nasty head clash again. Jason Herzog, he did really, really well here. It was one of those weird ones, Graeme. I don't know if you thought the same, but it looked like Curtis's eye was absolutely swelling up. And maybe it was just the angle, but the doctor came in, he allowed him to wipe a bit of blood out of it. Maybe getting a bit of blood out helped or something like that, because they showed again in his eye was pretty much open, but he had a nasty cut. And then Chris Curtis said twice, first of all, he said, my vision is blurred, I think. And then he said, I can't really see out of the eye. And when he said his vision was blurred, Herzog went to stop it. And he's like, no. And he's like, give me another minute. And Herzog, okay, I'll give you another minute. So Herzog knew from that, and I fully believe this, right? Herzog knew from that point he was going to stop the fight, right? And he didn't. He just wanted to be a little bit respectful of Chris Curtis, gave him another opportunity. But when Curtis said it again, he made Herzog's job easy in the end, and he ended up stopping the fight. But look, a great job by Jason Herzog. He did the right thing. He was going to do the right thing from the very start, but he just gave a bit of respect to Chris Curtis, which in that job you need to do. You really, really do need to do it, and fair play to him for doing that. Any controversy there, Graeme? That I think it was the right thing was done. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think, obviously it's unfortunate when they clash heads, but it was maybe a little bit more one's fault than the other, but it's hard to judge, and both guys clashed heads. It wasn't intentional. It's just an unfortunate thing that's going to happen from time to time in MMA, and I think the no contest was correct, but it's obviously disappointing for both guys. Obviously, a lot of these guys rely on, or not rely on, but it'd be a big help to them to get their win bonuses, and neither guy's getting a win bonus here, so that'll be disappointing. But at least there's no more losses on their record, and they can kind of either make the fight again or move on relatively soon. Yeah, that'd be. I think if you're Chris Curtis, you're probably like, let's give me a different fight. I'm like, do I want this rematch? Probably not. Let's move on to something else. But yeah, look, unfortunate, but what can you do, I suppose, at that stage. Miranda Maverick versus Jazz Davicius was next in. I think people were lauding this as some great fight. Oh God, it was pretty poor quality. Fair play to Jazz Davicius. There was a lot of this on it, and funnily enough, the one fight we needed it for, we didn't get it, the main event. But the Avalanche, she was the Avalanche here again, and she just absolutely smothered Miranda Maverick and won the fight. But God Almighty, there was one set where she went. It was worse than Frank Edgar, but she must have thrown 30 strikes in a combination, and I'd say 28 of them didn't land. And they were like, oh my God, she's landing these big strikes. There was absolutely nothing landing, and she was just throwing and throwing. But sometimes you need to do that. I always say it, well, not always, but recently said it with Merab. Him just going for takedowns, it's even if he does not win them, it really changes the fight. And I think, that happened here kind of with Jazz Davicius. But anyway, not a classic. A fun fight, but was it the most technical fight in the world? Absolutely not. Eamon Zahabi then got a beautiful left hook finish. I saw some people just stopping himself and then had to follow up.
But rightly so, because the fight wasn't over. Outer Long moved. He got to his hip, and then maybe it would have been finished anyway, because I'd say he was in a bad way. But I think the referee did a good job as well there, to be honest, not stopping that, because he was still fighting. He wasn't completely out. So, but anyway, he did land one more shot, and then the referee did stop it, so there's no problem there. Kyle Nelson beat Blake Builder. Just again, Builder 2, wet behind the ears, was coming in there throwing, like when he started throwing those wheel kicks at the end, I was like, oh God almighty, should this guy even be in the UFC? It felt like a 145, like you're 145 pounds. Paul Hughes is not in the UFC, and this guy is. Like, what is happening here? Like, Jesus Christ almighty, who's signing these guys? You know what? I thought it was weird, but Kyle Nelson, like Paul Hughes would destroy Kyle Nelson just handily, like really handily. But he got the win here, and he deserved it because Blake Builder is, not great. Person who is very good though, Steve Erceg. I thought he was tremendous against David Dvorak. This was a high level fight in the flyweight division. I was very, very impressed by it. A back and forth type of fight. But Erceg, I thought was the worthy winner, and he's definitely one to keep an eye on because Dvorak was ranked, I think in the top. I think he was 10th maybe in that division. So Erceg will be in the rankings now, and there's he's a guy who's only one fight in the UFC, and I think a lot of people will probably be wanting to avoid him for the way he fought there, but very
and he didn't have it all his own way in the first round, and kind of overcome adversity and kind of adapt and take over the fight is good to see in kind of a relatively inexperienced fighter.
Yeah, indeed. And then we had Diana Belbicha beating Maria Oliveira via unanimous decision as well. You know, a relatively close fight, but I think Belbicha was kind of maybe one or two steps ahead for the whole fight. But that was the card. We'll move on, but we'll also stay at the women's 115-pound division because there's big news for Irish MMA. We have another fighter in the UFC, Shauna Bannon, out of Paddy Houlihan's gym, has signed for the UFC. We attempted to break the news, but we couldn't get it done. But we did break the news of the fight. She's fighting Bruna Brazil at UFC London. That is official. And it's absolutely fantastic for Shauna Bannon. You know, I think Chris Fields put it up that she's the first fighter in the UFC to be Irish fighter with an Irish coach who also fought in the UFC to fight in the UFC herself. So absolutely brilliant. You know, if people don't know Shauna, she's like the only bad thing you could say about this is it a little bit too early because she's only 5 fights into her career. She hasn't been fighting that long, but like there's clear talent there. She only made her debut in around this time last year against Kerry Isom on Cage Legacy, and you know she's had 3 Cage Legacy fights, 2 fights in Invicta, and look, she came through.
She was on the amateur scene though for a while, getting a lot of experience, and was on a streak there and over at the IMAFs and all that stuff. So she might have a little bit more experience than you might initially think looking at a 5-0 pro record.
Indeed, but also she made her amateur debut in 2019, so not too long. A few weeks ago, I watched her fight against Dakota Dacheva, who is killing it in PFL at the moment, but is fighting up, obviously, a weight class above her. And honestly, that fight was a lot closer than maybe people might remember. That was a very good fight, a very competitive fight, and that was the last fight she lost. She's been on a 10-11 fight win streak since that, amateur and pro. Plus, she had a baby in the middle of all of that, so absolutely phenomenal. Ian has done some great interviews with her. I know he's going to have her on again, and I'll probably have her on myself maybe towards closer to the fight as well to discuss it. But it's great for Irish MMA because we are at a time now where we have a lot of fighters who are ready. We have a lot of fighters who are right there on the cusp, and she's not the only one in that division. It's funny because Danny McCormick is the champion in Invicta, and Shauna Bannon was maybe the number 1 contender, but Shauna Bannon got signed first, and it just goes to show as well.
It's good they didn't fight. No, would have backtracked or would have set back one of them, and that's true. Maybe Danny might get another win in Invicta, and she might be joining Shauna Bannon in the UFC.
That's true. Yeah, and that's kind of the way we said it as well. I think so. Maybe we're not so stupid after all, Graeme. Maybe, but
even a broken clock,
that's it. But the UFC are looking for unbeaten people, and we said that a few weeks ago, and maybe people didn't believe it or whatever. But that's it. I've heard from multiple fighters now that they're looking for people who haven't lost. They're looking for people, who are kind of fresh in, who they can promote as being unbeaten and all of that, and. It's interesting because I wonder and Shauna Bannon hasn't done this, like Shauna Bannon has done the opposite of this, but I wonder will people start putting their records from early doors to a place where they're fighting people who maybe don't deserve to be fighting them, and they can beat them, You know, so that they can get to that level, so they can get an unbeaten and do it like boxing or whatever. Like, you know, you look at Shauna's fights. She fought Kerry Isom, who's 1-1. Her next 2 fights were 3-0, 3-0. She fought Kerry Isom again because it was on short notice and all of that. But then, you know, she was in Invicta, fought someone with 10 fights as well. So she definitely hasn't done that. So it's interesting. It's interesting on about like how you get signed to the UFC and all of that. But forget that, because Shauna Bannon's talent is there for everyone to see. Like she came through the how would you say it, Graeme? And it wasn't necessarily kickboxing, but like the striking realms of Irish martial arts. And she did a great interview with Ian where she explained that and talked about, you know, her father was one of the top trainers, and I think he got like a plaque and stuff recently for all he has done for the scene. And then she transitioned over to MMA, obviously under the tutelage of Paddy Houlihan. And you know, in her last couple of fights, especially in Invicta, she's shown a lot of grappling ability. She's shown not only takedowns, but, you know, an ability to scramble very well. And that's always the worry when you have someone who comes over from striking. But she's looked good. And like, Shauna's
and the best thing about it is she's looked much improved in between fights.
Yes.
And obviously, you know, she's young in her career. She's kind of becoming more comfortable in there and stuff, and getting more experience. And you know, everything's gone kind of perfectly for her. She's got the minutes in the cage. She hasn't had it all her own way. She's going in there against a more experienced girl, but somebody who she has the abilities to beat in like multiple methods. Like, you know, she could finish her, she could go to a decision. Yeah, obviously when you're 5-0, there's still a lot of questions to be answered, but I think there's plenty of girls in that division that Shauna matches up nicely against. So I saw some people maybe, you know, on social media saying, oh, she shouldn't be here or things like that. But I think they must have not seen her development throughout from fight to fight. And I'd expect her to come in even better, much better than we've seen her before, even in the recent Invicta fight when she makes her UFC debut. And obviously it's a bigger show and it's a more experienced fighter, but it's in London. She probably have a good support behind her. It's definitely going to be a bit of a different feeling for her, but you know, she's taken everything in her stride. As you mentioned, she had a baby in between all of this
madness,
all of this madness and regular fights, and you know, turning pro and all that stuff. So she seems well able to take things in her stride. And as you mentioned, Paddy Houlihan's gym, a striker going to like a predominantly jiu-jitsu minded coach, seems to have worked out perfectly. So yeah, in my opinion, it makes sense for her to sign now. I know maybe, you know, you could say another fight or two, but with looking at the roster that the UFC have, I see some very nice matchups for her there.
Yeah, 100%. And plus as well, like in the interview she talked with Ian before she signed for Invicta last year, you know, she said straight out there was a lot of people who wanted to sign me, and I know for a fact there was, and I think she might have made the right decision going to Invicta. But if you think about it as well, like if you're the UFC, do you want to let her sign for someone else, whether it's, you know, is it Bellator or is it whoever it might be? You know, you're probably thinking, oh well, we've lost out on a few other fighters, but do we want to lose out on another one? And I think, you know, they probably maybe even pushed it more than anything else. So Shauna was a wanted woman, let's say, and she got the opportunity and she took it, and you can't complain about that. I also saw, you know, a few people, because I put up the post obviously, and a lot of people replying, they were like, oh, you know, it always happens. Like it happened with Ian Gary as well. Like the second he signs for the UFC, the negativity starts coming. But also it happened on the same day that George Hardwick was announced for the Dana White Contender Series. And people have to remember as well, if you look at the women's 115-pound division, like how many fighters actually are there in that division? Like 30, maybe 40. If you look at the men's lightweight division, there's probably like 140 or 150 or something like that. It's going to be tougher to get signed to that division without a shadow of a doubt. If you're a good fighter, a woman's 115, or, you know, at men's heavyweight or something like that, or men's light heavyweight, it's going to be easier for you to get signed than it is for Paul Hughes.
It's like comparing apples and oranges, really. Like, you know, the divisions are separate from each other. Like it's just
it's ridiculous.
Men's lightweight or men's whatever has nothing to do with women's.
Like when I look at the fight there and I saw a 145er and like how's this guy in there and Paul Hughes isn't, that's a fair comparison. But if I look and say, how is Juliana Pena in the UFC and Paul Hughes isn't, that's not a fair comparison. Or how's you know, some fat heavyweight, like it's just not a fair comparison. Of course it's not. But anyway, it's brilliant to see someone else Irish in the UFC. And as I said again, there's a lot of people on the precipice. You know, the three cage warrior champions that we have at the moment. Rhys McKee, you know, well earned. Paul Hughes, well earned. Caelan Loughran, you know, what did I just say a few minutes ago? They're looking for unbeaten fighters. They're looking for people who finish people. Like someone said to me recently, like Caelan might be signed before any of them. You know, because of that, because he's unbeaten, because he has the finishing streak, and it seems to be going that way. So let's see how it goes. And it's great though. It's great that there's another Irish person, and we'll talk a lot more about that fight before it comes up. It's just about 5 weeks away. So cannot wait for that. Absolutely fantastic, and fair play to Shauna and Paddy Hoolan and the whole team. So well earned. Let's move on. Let's talk another bit of Irish MMA, Graeme, and the big scene, because Bellator 297, a fantastic card next week. Their card of the year, absolutely brilliant. And we have two Irish fighters on it. Karl Moore is fighting Alex Polizzi in what could be a number one contender fight. Because if you look at this card, okay, in the main event, we have Nimkov against Romero for the 205-pound belt. But then we have Corey Anderson versus Phil Davis also on the card. Now, both Corey Anderson and Phil Davis have respectively fought Romero and Nimkov. So depending how those two results go, let's say if one lad wins and then Anderson or Davis, they've already beaten him, well, they'll be looking for someone else then maybe. And if you're Karl Moore and you put on a very good display against Alex Polizzi and maybe knock him out, well, you're suddenly moving into the top 5 in that division. You're on a great run. They've beaten the lads in front of you. Like, who's going to be next? There's a big Irish card coming up. There's another Irish card coming up in February. And look, Bellator, you can never trust him to not be foolish, but I think it'd probably be foolish not to do that if he puts himself in that position. What an opportunity, a big opportunity for Karl Moore, Graeme, isn't it? It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's a huge fight, and it's actually a really interesting fight. You know, this could go a lot of ways. Two big, powerful guys, two guys who can put people away on the feet and can submit people. You know, two guys who can go the distance as well. This one's very, very difficult one to pick, in my opinion. Like, I'd probably lean towards Karl. You know, he's been knocking off that dust, and kind of he's been out for a while, injuries and stuff like that, and getting his timing back and stuff like that. So maybe it'll come at a good time for him. But you know, Polizzi's his loss to Yo Romero. You know, you can kind of nearly write that off. Like Yo Romero. Well, not write it off, but you can understand it, and you know, maybe that'll play into his mind getting knocked out in the last one. Maybe that'll be an advantage to Karl Moore, who has big power in his hands as well. If he can stun him early, maybe you know, Alex won't be as confident as he would have been if he wasn't coming off a KO loss. And obviously Karl getting in there, getting wins. You know, obviously in the gym is one thing, but getting in the cage and getting that feeling back after being out for so long, I think is important. And he's looked phenomenal since he's come back. Really, like, you know, they haven't given him easy matchups. They haven't really placed him in, you know, big spots on the card or anything, but he's getting the results. And yeah, it's a difficult one to pick, but I'd edge towards Karl. But yeah, this is a big fight, and if he wins this, as you said, he definitely must be into title contention. Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt. And you know, as you said there, a winnable fight, a tough fight, but a winnable fight. And I think, like, Karl, after his recent fights, has been pretty critical of himself, you know, and I think when even the people who have been watching on, and we're also asking him questions afterwards, really have been impressed by what he's been doing. But if he can put all of the good parts of his last few outings together and go to 15 minutes or as long as it takes, you know, he's hard bet. He really is hard bet. And I'm probably leaning towards Karl here as well, if I'm being honest. But a very, very good fight. But when you're at 205 and you have the power that both of these lads have, you know, anything can happen. But I'm looking forward to that one. I'm also looking forward to Richie Smullen. What an opportunity for Richie here. He's fighting Timur Khizriev, 12-0, ranked fighter. You know, Khizriev is going to be coming in here as a big favourite, I would think. But Graeme, you've watched Richie down through the years, and he's never a lad who's minded if you're fighting away from home or fighting against someone who's a heavy favourite or anything like that. Richie will show up, he'll be ready, and he will fucking give it you, won't he? Like, if you wanted one lad fighting as an underdog, it'd be Richie Smullen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's not really buying into any bullshit, or he's just keeping his head down, doing the work, and, you know, doing his own thing. And I'm sure like, you know, he sees this as a big opportunity. You know, he must, you know, obviously coming off coming off a win over Daniel Weichel is nothing to be sniffed at. You got to respect a guy like that. So I'm sure Richie Smullen is expecting a really tough fight here, close rounds. Like it could be a very similar one to his last outing against Nijelski. You know, it could be one where you're not really sure who's gonna get the decision at the end of the fight. But this is a tough matchup. But if he wins it, then it definitely kind of catapults him into another kind of category, and hopefully we'll see him higher on cards and maybe against opponents with bigger names. You know, going in there against guys like this, that unheralded guys that are kind of breaking through as well. If you beat them, maybe people think, oh, maybe he wasn't as good as we thought. But if you lose, obviously you're down the consideration in Bellator's matchmaking then. So it's a huge fight for Richie, and you know, obviously he tough is on at the moment with Lee Hammond. He had a really difficult time on The Ultimate Fighter, was trying to make weight. I'm not exactly sure what happened. His body gave up on him. So, you know, he's had a hard time of it, and you haven't heard him complaining. He just knuckled back down and kept quiet, kept to himself, kept working away. You know, you talk to anybody in SBG, and if you ask them who's in the gym today, Richie Smullen's usually there, and he's working as hard as anybody else. And you know, that leads to a lot of problems for our fighters. If you can go all day, you can be not tired when your opponent's tired. Like a fight that you're losing can swing on that. We've seen it so many times. Technique dwindles as your cardio goes, and if Richie Smullen smells blood, he's shown that he's willing to capitalize. He's able to capitalize. So yeah, it's a very difficult matchup for him. You know, I wouldn't be too confident that this is going to be easy for him, or this is going to be a win for him. But he definitely stands a chance. But yeah, this is a difficult matchup in my opinion.
It is, but also like these are the sort of matchups that we wanted for the Irish fighters, and fair play to Bellator for putting them in there, like putting Carl Moore in against Polizzi, who is, you know, one of the top ranked guys, putting Richie Smullen in here against a ranked guy as well, you know, outside of Irish cards, you know, give them that opportunity. And look, if they come up short, they come up short, but at least they've got the opportunity and it's there to be taken. If they can take it, they can go to the next level. So I'm really excited for these two fights. The rest of the card, as I said, is very, very good.
Norbert.
Well, yeah, my guy Norbert interviewed him a few weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, it's on the SevereMMA YouTube. Look, in my opinion, I think he's the best prospect in the world. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And he's meeting a good opponent here, Kamil Onishuk. I watched a few of his fights, and you know, he's a good, long, straight up jab, hook, straight type of fighter who can cause a lot of people problems, but I don't think Norbert will be one of those people, to be honest, and I'm looking forward to seeing
I'm looking forward to seeing the knockout prop on this, because the odds are closer than I expected for just the match betting or the...
Oh, are they? What are the odds? I haven't seen it yet.
I'll have to pull it up again. I saw it earlier. One sec. Yeah. It's minus 250 for Norbert and plus 175 for Camille.
I don't think it should be that close. Yeah, I might even have a nibble on that myself with my winnings from last night. But yeah, that's a good fight. A big important fight at heavyweight as well. Daniel James against Gökhan Sakaram. But James had a great couple of wins recently, so the winner of that could be fighting for the title. As I mentioned, Anderson Davis, we know the stakes behind that. And then the two big fights on top. Look, we might as well talk about Nimkov and Romero first of all, because that's the weight class we were just talking about. I was doing my preview, recording it the other day for this, Graeme, and like, it's a very easy fight to analyse, I think, because I think what Romero will do is he will come out and he will wait and try to throw his big shot. And when I say easy to analyse, I think easy to analyse from Romero's point of view. I'm actually not sure what Nimkov is going to do, because like, do you take the Adesanya approach and kind of wait with him and kind of throw a little few jabs, or do you take the Whittaker approach and go at him and try to stop the rhythm? Like, honestly, I think here's my feeling. I think he will do the Adesanya approach, but I think the Whittaker approach might actually benefit him a little bit more, because I think it's going to be hard against Yoel. I honestly, I don't know. I really don't know on this one. Nimkov is the favourite, and I'm picking him, and I'm kind of picking him just because I am picking him, really. I'm really not sure. It's a fun fight. I'm not. When I say fun fight, it's a fun matchup. I'm not sure it'll be the best fight in the world. Have you a clearer view on it than me, Graeme? Because I really don't have a clear view on this one.
I think it might be Romero might do a lot of waiting. Maybe Nemkov will be winning until he gets finished. That kind of might be how it goes. You know, we've seen it with Romero. He's very patient. He's very explosive. Obviously, he's an absolute freak of nature in terms of his abilities on another level, especially for somebody his age. It's just ridiculous. But you know, yeah, I could see Nemkov maybe edging out rounds until he gets caught with something big, and you know, Romero's got to pick that time and capitalize on it. And maybe it won't happen. Maybe it'll turn into a boring decision for Nemkov. But yeah, I saw the odds were in Nemkov's favor, but I'd probably be leaning Yo Romero here. Maybe that's a bit of you know, looking into his record in the past and thinking he's going to do that. And then maybe at his age, there is a point where he'll just fall off a cliff. Like 46 years old is extremely old, you know.
He certainly didn't look like that in Dublin, did he?
Yeah, you know, from what we saw, it didn't look like coming soon. But at that age, you never know, you know. I don't know. I think Yo Romero is just a different breed. He may be 46, but his body is like 30. I don't know what's going on. He's a genetically modified fighting machine.
Beast, an absolute beast. Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to it. And as I said, it's one of those I'm really, really not sure what's going to happen in it, but I'll be tuning in, looking forward to it, as I will be with Sergio Pettis against Patricio Pitbull. Patricio trying to become a 3-weight champion. Look, I think the biggest thing this weekend, we can analyse this all we want. Like, and it's again, Pettis is a good technical striker, and he'll be going out and try to technically strike. And Patricio is kind of a wait and plod forward. And when I say plod, I mean that in a very positive manner, because he uses it extremely well, and he lands the big right hand, which is, you know, how will that work out? I think Patricio will probably be favourite in a fight like that. He's bigger and he's beating very good guys. He might struggle with the speed, but then again, Pettis isn't the fastest guy at that weight class. But the weight cut here is going to be the biggest issue, and it always is. And ones like that, we saw with TJ Dillashaw getting down, and he, you know, made the weight, but he was finished after a few seconds of that fight. And he talked about the struggles. The question is Patricio kind of like a Frankie Edgar, who was fighting at 155, but it was always a 135er, and just came down to 145 because he came down to 145. I won't get the sense of that, I don't think, until Friday, maybe, Graeme. What do you think? Like, do you think he's going to make the weight okay? Do you think he's going to be looking good at 135 and putting the same performance against Sergio as he does in most of his fights? What way do you see it?
Like, I think if he does the weight cut and all that kind of gradually over the camp and doesn't leave himself too much to do at the end, and kind of, you know, it's a new experience cutting down to 135, and it can go wrong. And if it does go wrong, you know, you can be a kind of shadow of yourself out there. You're completely drained and things like that. So that could happen, but assuming he makes weight relatively without being on death's door, I think he'll have too much for Pettis. But yeah, there definitely is that doubt in the mind, because we've seen guys try to go down to a weight class they've never been at before and look terrible. So that question is definitely hanging over. But if I had a free bet on it, I'd be going with Pitbull.
Me too. All right, let's. We need to look back at PFL in a second, but just quickly to look at the other cards next week. The UFC card, you know, it's not a terrible card. Vittori and Cannonier in the main event. Look, we'll see how that goes. Saryukin and Joaquim Silva in the co-main event. That's a good fight. My guy Christian Leroy Duncan, the former Cage Warriors middleweight champion, he's back against Armin Petrosyan. That should be a banger. I have a soft spot for Pat Sabatini. He's fighting Lucas Almeida, and then after that, Muslim Salikov is back. He's fighting Nicholas Dalby. That's not a bad fight. I like the look of Miles Johns against Hani Barsolos. Zalas Amagulov is back here again, who puts on some fun fights. And Modestas Blakauskas is also on the card against Zach Powiga. So if you're a Cage Warriors fan, you have a couple of former champions there. So yeah, it's not a bad card. It's not a bad card, and we will look forward to that. Just before we get to last week's PFL card, next week's PFL card, I think this Ante Delia versus Maurice Green fight is actually like a massive fight for them, because like they should really be promoting this highly, because like you should be promoting this as Francis Ngannou's next opponent possibly here, like whoever wins. Because if Ante D'Elia is obviously the champion from last year, if he goes in and he wins here, he might be the favourite to fight Francis. They have been saying that now. I'd say maybe they'll be hoping to get a bigger name possibly, but Ante D'Elia is a very good fighter. I know a lot of people don't know him, and I've been covering those fights for the last couple of years, but he's a very good fighter, and they probably should be promoting this well. But anyway, Larissa Pacheco is also on the card as well. Baggio Ali Walsh is on the card. I think he's making his pro debut here. He is the grandson of Muhammad Ali. So yeah, and there's some other good fights as well. Renan Ferreira against Matthias Scheffel. Aspen Ladd is on the card. Denis Goltsov, the former champion, is on the card as well. So not a bad one there at all. But PFL 4 that went down on Thursday night, another card that was long and drawn out, but it wasn't a bad card at all. Abby Montes, who beat Claressa Shields, got a good ground and pound win. Andrew Sanchez won the split decision. Imba Kasanganay got the submission with an arm choke. Chris Wade looked very good against my guy Ryoji Kudo and won there. Flores and Spawn had a terrible fight. Marlon Moraes again, I don't know if you saw this or not, Graeme, but he retired. Another retirement. Again, he looked good. He looked good for the first 90 seconds. And he got hit once.
Just not the chin.
And
just been going on for years. Like, really.
Yeah. It must be so frustrating, because you can understand it, right? When people get to the end of their career and they're slow and their knees are gone and their back is gone and they can't move and they're not the same fighter they were. Marlon Moraes is not that, like. He's just not. He still is athletic. He still can move. He's still fast. He can still hit. But his chin is just absolutely gone. Just gone. And when he gets touched on it once, he just wobbles. It's like, it's sad to watch. Like, and I mean genuinely sad. It must be so frustrating for him, who's still a young guy and he knows he can still do it. Like, but oh God, it was very unfortunate. He got hammer fisted, knocked out again. Good win for Gabriel Braga, who looks, I watched a few of his fights coming in. I was both impressed and not impressed at the same time, but he is only 11 fights into his career and a guy who has a lot of plus points, and he could do damage in this now going forward, but we'll see on that. But look, Marlon Moraes, another guy maybe we can look back on in the series over on Patreon in time to come. Joshua Silveira then got the win over De La Monte with a knee injury for De La Monte on a takedown. Very hard to see exactly what happened here. It looked like he kind of just twisted his foot, and then it, when the foot twists, the knee twist, Graeme, you're probably sitting there with a broken ACL or a torn ACL at the moment. You probably don't want to see this, so we'll move on and not talk about that. But Bubba Jenkins is a bad man, and on Thursday night he wasn't losing this. I'm telling you, he just went out there, destroyed Sung Bin Jo, got the rear naked choke in the first round, looked very, very good. Martin Hamlet got the unanimous decision over Sam Kane, not a great one. Very good fight though between Mavlid Kababailov and Tyler Diamond. Like, Tyler Diamond was doing very well for the first 4.5 minutes of this, stopping the takedown. If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast.
Graham McDonald is an idiot.
Sean Sheehan of SevereMMA.com. He even has the audacity to call himself the quote-unquote pod god.
This is SevereMMA.
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 The SevereMMA podcast is finally here.
Welcome to the Severe MMA podcast. Here's your host, Sean Sheehan.
Welcome everybody. It's episode 420, man, of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka Shawnee Podcast, the pod god, the most cocky man in MMA, judging Sean Sheehan, as we take another look at the world of mixed martial arts. We always do it every week here, and we're going to do it again. I'm joined by the Pep Guardiola of Irish MMA Media, Graeme McDonald, as we delve into MMA, as we always do. But before we get into all that mad MMA, Smooth Sack Summer is here, And if you haven't already heard, why haven't you heard? Where you're playing in the summer sun, you need to be scaped from pubes to bum. That's right. This is the summer they keep your balls cool while still looking hot with Manscaped. The leaders in below the waist grooming are making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. So dive head first into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with our code SevereMMA. And it's, do you know what? I had a good shave myself. Maybe down low. Although that needs to come as well. But you know, when it's warm and roasting outside, you need it. You need it. Clean yourself up. And do you know what is best for that? The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. It has absolutely everything. Starting off with the Lawnmower 4.0. Lads, this is brilliant. It has that advanced skin safe technology. 7,000 RPM motor, on and off multifunction switch, travel lock, 4,000K LED light, the whole shebang, sure. Did I mention it's waterproof? Take it to the beach, the lake, the shower. Absolutely perfect for all of that. The liquid formulations as well. I actually just got new ones there over the last couple of weeks. I love them. They get you fresh for the barbecue. The crop preserver, absolutely brilliant. The crop reviver, fantastic as well. Then we have the Manscaped boxers and the Shed travel bag, which were the two gifts with that Performance Package 4.0. What more do you need? But they also, do you know what? I was using these today, the Shears 2.0, because everyone, you know, you're wearing flip-flops, you're going around like that. That's exactly what you need. But they have nail cutters, tweezers, and grooming scissors as well. And I'll tell you this for free, even though I'm getting paid. They are really, 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 really good. Honest to God, if you buy nothing else, buy that. The Shears 2.0, that package is exceptional. So get that over at manscaped.com. And you can have 20% off plus free shipping on that. That's brilliant. The free shipping, I'd rather free shipping 20% off nearly. I hate paying for shipping. So if you can get the free shipping at manscaped.com with the promo code SevereMMA. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our awesome friends. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Over at Caldera Lab. And you know what you need with a smooth sack? You need a smooth face as well. It's right around the corner is the summer, not the sack. The sun shines brighter. Your skin deserves the utmost attention. Unfortunately, I didn't say unfortunately, I said and fortunately, our sponsors Caldera Lab are the leader in men's skincare, ensuring your skin is well prepared for the season ahead. Ever since I incorporated Caldera Lab into my routine, well, honestly, I started with Caldera Lab. Taking care of my skin has been even simpler with their clinically proven products. Wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging. It's visibly reduced. Visibly reduced. All of those things. You know, boosted confidence, impeccable first impression this summer. What more do you want? And you can get 20% off their products, their finest products, at calderalab.com with the promo code SevereMMA. CALDERALAB. Caldera Labs, you know, if you don't know by now, they create high performance men's skincare products by combining pharmaceutical grade science along with nature's purest and most potent ingredients. The regimen leads their product line, a twice a day routine to transform your skin, but you'll also see the clean slate, the base layer, and the clean slate helps you start your day. It's a balancing cleanser. The base layer is a nutrient dense fortifying moisturizer that hydrates your skin, and the good is the go-to before night. Clinically proven multifunctional serum that helps your skin look tighter and smoother. I don't know why I'm putting on an American accent, but there you go. So yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. Check them out. We want you to take your skincare to the next level with Caldera Lab, and you got to do that. The icon as well for around your eyes, absolutely brilliant. It's a rejuvenating eye serum, takes away fine lines, or helps anyway, fine